Bullets whizzing by, a house set on fire, a suspect gets tased. A scenario these members of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office encountered last May. Tonight, all were honored for their actions. Here's 7 News reporter Brendan Straub.
A deck with a few lawn chairs is all that remains at this property on Pillar Point. It was here almost 6 months ago that Nathan Crump allegedly shot at officers as they responded to a call, leading to a standoff. Crump would then allegedly set the home that stood here on fire. Jefferson County Sheriff Pete Barnett says it was a diversion tactic to try and escape. Police say they found Crump riding a tractor from the scene. He was tased and arrested. Tuesday, Sheriff Barnett honored more than a dozen deputies and detectives for their actions.
There was nothing more than miraculous that we did not have any funerals.
At the ceremony, all received an honorary certificate, signifying their act of selfless bravery while in the line of duty. Sergeant Paige Taylor says it's imperative for police to work together because scenes like this can change moment by moment.
It evolves quickly, so you are definitely have to have a varied set of skills in order to respond appropriately.
And although many deputies would say they were just doing their job, Barnett feels being recognized for their actions helps to build self-confidence and morale.
I see a lot, I hear a lot, and the work doesn't go unnoticed. That's for darn sure.
Crump is still being held at the Jefferson County Jail, charged with first-degree attempted murder. Barnett says the department is hopeful he'll be convicted. Brendan Straub, 7 News.